All right. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk, the Women's Center on Campus new weekly video series featuring conversations around relationships, empathy, advocacy, and life between yours truly. So my name is Cara, and I'm the manager of campus education and outreach at the Women's Center. And this is my lovely colleague, Sydney, our director of campus counseling and advocacy at the Women's Center. So for those of you who don't know, Sydney and I are actually really close friends outside of work as well. And we find ourselves discussing work things quite often outside of work because, you know, interpersonal violence is just so fun to talk about. So we actually thought it would be really fun to create this video series where we talk about these relevant and topical issues to hopefully all of you that you find interesting. So each week, we're going to be talking about different things, topics related to interpersonal violence. All of these episodes are pre-recorded and available on various social media sites, and they will be released every Tuesday at 5 p.m. So today, we're going to be talking about the messages that we received growing up about love, healthy, unhealthy, whatever they may be. So we're just talking about like kind of where we got these messages from, kind of where they're influenced from. So I know when I was kind of thinking about this morning and like we were just talking about before about like movies and TV shows. And I think for me, the first thing I thought of is like growing up, I mean, obviously besides cartoons and things, like all the shows that I watched were when there was romance, it was always conflict and drama, or like playing hard to get, I feel like was a really big thing. Even for like the younger shows on the Disney Channel and things I used to watch, like it was all about like, oh, I love someone, but I can't get them. So I have to come up with this plot
It's like
or like crazy elaborate plan, yeah, to like get their attention.
Right.
And it was this like cat and mouse kind of thing. And so I like really feel like I learned from a young age that you have to play these games to like get someone's attention or to like get them to like you or something.
Exactly. And that you can't be like direct or open and honest about feelings. Like if you are, like that's something to be ashamed of or embarrassed about or nervous.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna like figure it out. And you know, as a young kid or in high school or whatever, like it was hard to translate that into reality and be like, wait, but what's going on?
Yeah, like how do I act? And like, is it okay to be myself? I feel like that was a huge thing. And I guess also like, I mean, I won't disclose my age, but like growing up watching certain things, there was also a feeling of pressure to like look a certain way, to act a certain way. And I think also it's important for our audience members to like recognize that I mean, speaking for myself, but I think for both of us too, like we're speaking from a perspective of like cisgender heterosexual women. And that's going to change, I think, a lot of the way that we talk about relationships. Like I never had to consider all the things that like LGBTQ folks had to, you know, process all these different messages because mainly, I mean, I don't remember really learning about LGBTQ relationships in general. Like it just wasn't part of the conversation, if there even was a conversation, which I just feel like is wrong and hard.
Well, and I think along that line too, like definitely wrong. And like stuff that in my career now, you know, I've put a lot of focus into trying to learn because there was like this absence of that language. And
totally.
I think also like about like what did we learn from TV shows and movies and things like that. I, as like a straight cis white woman, didn't have to worry about like, was I going to be represented in the stuff that I was consuming and how the ways I was learning about love, like family dynamics or like friend conversation, sure, but like I was not worried about if I was going to be represented on the TV when I turned on a movie or something like that. And like most of the shows that I watched was about, you know, like straight relationships and like how did that work in middle school, whether it was a Disney Channel show or like high school stuff on other networks and things like that. I'm thinking like One Tree Hill or whatever, you know, like that was just drama all the time.
All the good drama, but not really good drama. But no, exactly. And I feel like that's 100% still true today. Like we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, even that I was scrolling through Hulu trying to find a movie to watch, and you know, even just like a romance movie or a rom-com or whatever. And all I saw was like straight white hetero couples. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like the representation is just not there for other folks. And it's just, yeah.
It's sad. And I'm sure like in future weeks and future episodes, we're going to dive into that even more. But it was something that just like pinged up in my brain as like, wait a minute. Also, what I was learning about love was that it was male, female, you know, and like that was what it was because that's what I was seeing on the TV.
Yeah.
And I did not grow up in a household that was like, we're only going to show you this. It was just,
Right.
that was what was there.
Exactly. And I think those like stereotypical gender roles were really, really present, and almost so much to the point where I never, obviously as a kid, like thought about it. I think I don't know if I ever noticed it while I was watching it and like pointed out like, that's a stereotype, you know, like that's a rigid gender role or whatever. But I definitely absorbed it because I think there were so many expectations of like how you're supposed to act as a girl or how you're supposed to behave to get the guy's attention or whatever it might be.
Or who's supposed to make the first move or like
yeah,
out or send the text first. Like I always learned like that had to be the guy that did that. And it, you know, as I got older, obviously like you challenge that a little bit, but I know, you know, the whole reason we're doing Real Talk is because we've had these conversations in our personal lives.
right.
Have challenged each other to be like, wait a minute, like, well, maybe that's something we just learned, but that's not necessarily correct, or like whatever that might be, you know?
Yeah. I don't know why my brain just flashed to when I was in probably like ninth grade and I was watching the movie Clueless with one of my friends. And I remember she actually typed up the rules for me. Cause I don't know, have you seen Clueless?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So do you remember when she's like trying to get his attention and she goes like, send yourself flowers and like draw attention to your mouth or whatever.
Yeah, the chocolate or whatever.
Eating chocolate, yeah. And so my friend literally typed up those rules for me and like gave them to me one day at school as like a like, okay, this is what we have to do to like get our crushes to like us. And just thinking about that now, I'm like, that's so wild that we were so influenced by the movies and TV shows. And like thinking about ninth grade, you know, that's kind of when well, I guess some people start dating or dating a version of dating in middle school, but high school is where those first relationships can happen. And if all we're hearing is like, this is how you're supposed to behave as a girl or as whoever,
Right.
and this is what a relationship is supposed to look like in movies, or, you know, we haven't even talked about music yet, but all those messages that we got, I mean, it makes sense why people enter relationships not really knowing what's healthy or not.
Right. And like conform to these, like as if there actually were written rules that you have to follow step 1, 2, 3, 4. Like,
Yeah.
you know, as told by Cher or what, you know,
Right.
I think that like, we haven't even talked about like, once you're in the relationship, right? Like once you get there, like how much have you learned? How much did we learn like about how to begin a relationship or clue someone that you're interested in like dating them or whatever it might be? But like there's so much more about what movies and TV and stuff have taught us, like once you're in the relationship, about what's healthy, from like jealousy to, you know, it's normal to have like everybody's password, and if they don't give you your password, like what does that mean? And like,
yeah,
you know, I don't know, some people are like super invested in like social media followings and stuff like that of their partner, and I bring that up because there's TV shows around it, you know, like, and that's the whole premise of the thing.
And I think like, you know, shifting to music too, I feel like music also it is naturally dramatic, right? Because that's how you get like a catchy song, or like that's how you relate to it. But I remember like listening to music even at like 12 years old or 11 years old. That was like so like Toni Braxton, which like nobody listens to her now. But like, even then, like I'd listen to this music that was so dramatic and like so intense. Mm-hmm. And I was, you know, this little like hopeless romantic at middle school age. But it really took it to heart, where I was like, okay, love equals intensity. Like love equals passion, which how am I at 12 years old going to know? And how do we even at 15, 16, like we only think we know what that means. based off of what we listen to in music or see in movies and whatever. And that was like, yeah, it builds. Yeah. I feel like that was the biggest message I got from even like now as an adult, like the movies and TV shows I still enjoy are, you know, dramatic and a little twisted and like whatever.
Have that every once in a while, but like it was this memo of like constantly with your partner and constantly connected to them. And I don't remember ever learning about like this idea like that you're your own person and then like also can add in a partner in a relationship, but like
totally,
you know, oh, I'm looking for my other half. Like every Disney movie that's ever made is like, let's, you know, she's trying to find her other half.
and every song is like, I'd be nothing without you, you're everything to me, I would die without you. And it's like we sing along. Even like I was listening to Demi Lovato recently, like one of her songs from her not most recent album, but like maybe 2 albums ago.
Yeah.
I'm totally forgetting the name of it now, but it's like the song that everyone really loved and it got like a ton of likes and whatever. The music video was really popular.
Yeah, like maybe I don't know what you're talking about.
The one that I'm like trying to remember what it was. It was something about, wait, I can find it. Here, you talk about something and I'll find it on my phone.
Well, I think even just speaking about like Demi Lovato, like a lot of her music is intense, and like I always was a fan. And I remember, you know,
Tell Me You Love Me. That was one.
Oh yes, oh my God. And like that again, like this like, oh my God, it's this all or nothing type, like we're gonna die without one another, like I need you to tell me you love me and whatever. And like it creates all these expectations for real life relationships. And I think, you know, I was in undergrad and I remember like my friends dating and, you know, I was an RA and like all that drama that happened, like as RAs that we saw happening with residents and like what was going on. It's just not real life. I don't know.
Yeah. And the expectations become harmful because they're like creating this expectation of codependency. Right. And also this, like, if you don't have this drama or passion that they make it out to be, then your relationship isn't real or you don't really love each other. And that's where those messages about like love equals control or love equals possessiveness or love equals jealousy, that's where those things come from. But like, that's not real and that's not healthy. But where else do we learn about, like, I don't remember ever learning about what a healthy relationship looks like what we do now, what I do as an educator, talking about healthy relationships. I can't remember ever learning that in school or like from family or friends or, you know, it was just.
No, I think like I learned about relationships like through my family and through friends was through observation, right? Like everybody does. You know, and I took whatever lessons were there, you know, from that, but nobody was defining things as this is healthy, this is unhealthy, this is something that'll make you feel safe, this might make you feel confused or like whatever. And, you know, that was okay, that was fine, but it was just like learning through experiencing it. And in I don't know what's the word, like, but together with like everything on TV, it was like, oh yes, you know, God forbid I saw someone in my family fight. I'm like, well, that's what they do on TV. So that means that this is normal and that's, you know, good for that person, for having someone to fight with kind of a thing.
Or we learn through our peers. Like I talk about this a lot when I go into classes of like why I got into this work. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of it was because I didn't know until looking back once I got into college. And I mean, I knew I wanted to get involved in high school even, which some people find surprising, but I just kind of stumbled into it in high school. But even looking back, like when I got into college and really started to get involved in this work, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even count on my hands how many of my friends and family members like have been through something like this. And it was just so normalized. Like I remember my friends in high school, I had one particular friend, like you were talking about the password thing, where her boyfriend it was her first relationship. And he was older than her, which was also like, I think a big influence. Like if you were dating somebody older, it was like you were learning kind of from them how to be in that relationship and you could learn a lot of the wrong things. And that was for her, it was like they were so codependent of each other, but he was also really controlling, but he spun it to make it sound like charming and like, oh, well, you know, share your passcode with me because we share everything together, and like made it sound sweet
Yeah.
and kind of passed it off as something nice when it was really not.
And like, what did she have to compare it to if it was her first relationship?
Right. And then like he, you know, would have her password to like Facebook at the time was the biggest app that we were using, and MySpace. If anyone even knows what MySpace is. But so he would start controlling all of her friends. Like he would see, because she had a lot of like guy friends too. And all of a sudden, one of her guy friends was like, hey, why did you delete me off of MySpace or Facebook, whichever it was? And she's like, what are you talking about? You know, I didn't do that. And then she asked her boyfriend, and he was like, well, why are you even talking to that guy anyway? Like, I should be the only guy. And it turned really quickly.
Right.
But it made, like, again, was twisted into this, like, if you love me, then I would be the only guy you talk to or whatever. And just, she was so young and so like new to relationships. And as a friend who was also 14, 15, you know, I didn't know that was like not okay.
Abuse, and that's like a red flag, and like you don't have language or the knowledge. But I can imagine, like, even when you just told that story, I was very like, well, like I can feel that, like what that might have felt like for her to hear him like so quickly be like, well, I should be the only person. Like it's very like, and like those feelings that we get, whether it's a gut feeling or like a, well, that's weird or funny, like whether we have the language to tie to it or not, or the experiences or the right TV show or movie to tie to it, like our feelings usually are like a good indicator of like, oh, that's a little funny.
Yeah, I feel like that's such a good point too, because even obviously we're trying to reach the college population with this series, like, you know, this is like you're entering adulthood in a new way. You might be entering these new relationships for the first time on your own, really, and or maybe not surrounded by your friends that you were surrounded by in high school or the friends that know you really well yet. Like you might be in these new friendships and new situations, so it can be hard to like trust your gut and hard enough to like set those boundaries from the get-go in a new relationship because of that fear of like, I want this to work and I don't want to lose this. But I feel like it's so important to listen to that gut feeling, to trust your instincts, to like also not just like feel like you have to deal with it on your own. Because I mean, you and I, but like we know this happens ridiculously common, you know, in all age groups, and particularly with the college population, like leaning on your friends for support, coming to us for support, like knowing that you have people you can go to, I feel like is something I never knew because nobody ever talked about it, you know?
Exactly. And we, you know, we talk a lot about like, we're at the Women's Center, this is what we're here for, you know, crisis level response, like call the hotline, do these things, but we're also here for those conversations of like, is this healthy? Is this not healthy?
Right.
I don't really know, because why are you supposed to know right off the bat?
Yeah.
Like, everybody learns healthy friendships, healthy family relationships, right? Also healthy, like intimate partner relationships. Like you have to, unfortunately, sometimes experience stuff or see somebody else experience something to know to even like look out for it.
Right.
But I think like on the other side of it too, like when something feels good, you'll know that too, right? Like,
right.
Oh my God, this is like a fairy tale, right? Or this is like a movie. Like you'll also feel it in your body when like something is right, you know?
Yeah.
Like, talk to your friends about that too. Like that's fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's exciting. Like we don't only want to talk about the bad stuff here, you know?
Right.
It's all important to talk about, and it's all a part of like the messages we learned about love as we were growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's a perfect, I was like putting a little bow on our conversation. I mean, I know we can talk about this forever, but I feel like that was a really nice way to sum it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think so too. I totally agree. And that was exciting. I'm glad that we did that. If you all have any thoughts or questions or reactions to what we discussed today, or would like to connect with us for any reason, you can reach us via email or phone. So my email is sydney.t@wcogd.org, and Cara's is cara.m@wcogd.org. And our office phone number on campus is 203-837-3939. Remember, these episodes are all recorded and will be available to view on IGTV, YouTube, and Facebook every Tuesday at 5. you can join us, excuse me. You can find us on Instagram at WCOGD_on-campus and Facebook at the Women's Center on Campus, where the YouTube link will also be available. Please share this with your friends. Stay tuned for next week's episode, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yay! Thank you.